We're so glad everybody decided to join us this morning. We have Mo here, our Director of Campus Security, to talk about safety, and he's going to start out with active shooters, but he does have other topics he also has to cover. Anyway, and several of you submitted questions. I've given those to him beforehand, and then please feel free at the end. Mo is very willing to answer any questions you might have. You might have some questions that come up after he gets started, so please be sure and ask any and all questions that you might have about security. I know
there you go.
Mo really wants to make sure everybody's aware.
Yeah, I can make up something if I don't know it, so we're good.
All right, so I'll go ahead and turn things over.
All right, well, thank you. I am starting out with active shooter because I get a lot of questions on this, and a lot of people enjoyed the tabletop we did last year, and it generated probably 2 weeks worth of questions. I'd be walking down a hallway and they'd stop me, so what we're going to do is we're going to review a little bit of what we learned with the tabletop and active shooters. First of all, most of the shootings are planned, sometimes weeks or months in advance. The exception to this are domestic issues. And we're going to touch on domestic violence in a little bit and how it plays in. Motives can be many different things. So it could be a perceived wrong, that's the bullying type thing, or it's an actual type thing. Political, religious, and again, domestic. Shooters develop scripts that they're going to follow. They act through what they're going to do time and time again. So when they come in and start doing something, they're almost machine-like. And that's important to understand, because when we talk about fighting, we're talking about taking them off that script. And that doesn't work too well for them. Their own death is usually part of the script, and they're after a high body count. That means you are not going to reason with these people. They want to make national, international news. That means they need a high body count. So don't think that you can talk one of these people down. What the past taught us. Columbine especially taught us that having lockdown as your first and only response just is not going to work. We have got to do more than lockdown. Lockdown's okay in its place. Relying on law enforcement to respond in time to prevent mass casualties isn't going to work. You're going to be lucky in about 6 minutes to have enough officers to take on an active shooter on this campus. What you have that other places haven't had is armed security. So I'm your first line of defense, and my job is just to go in and eliminate the shooter. And when we hired the new security company that we have, I made sure that they understood that was their job. I don't worry about anything else. Sincerely believing it won't happen here does not work. And I run into people like that. When I did the school security assessments for USD 259, I had principals tell me it wasn't going to happen in their building. I thought, oh Lord. And then thinking you can talk down that shooter, you know, if that's what you're going to do, not going to happen. It's just not. So let's talk about domestic violence, because I started seeing some of this increase last school year in colleges. So pay attention to domestic issues that affect coworkers or students. If they talk about a pending divorce, if they talk about things going on in a relationship, pay attention to that, because that's what triggers a lot of this stuff. Abuse can include physical abuse, which will show up as bruising normally. You can only slip and fall in the shower so many times, okay? Or radical changes in mood or behavior. Now we're talking psychological or mental abuse or sexual abuse. People who are fun and talkative, all of a sudden they're quiet and withdrawn. Red flag on you. It can be brought on by a change in a marital or dating status, child custody issues, or and I saw this a lot on the police department, protection from abuse or no stalking orders. Some of these people are like, well, you can't tell me what I can and can't do, and this piece of paper won't stop me, let me show you. And here they come. That can be a trigger on the domestic issues. And then finally, pay attention to pleas for help from coworkers. All right, if someone's all of a sudden wanting to hang out with you after work and they never did before, if someone is wanting to spend extra time at work, come in early, stay late, and there's really no cause for that, you might ask why on that. Might be a domestic issue. So we teach run, hide, fight. And why do we do that? Well, we're going to break this down a little bit for you today. Why run? Well, military law enforcement personnel, on average, 70 to 80% accurate at the ranges. All right? They got a nice paper target up there they're shooting at, 70 to 80%. Dynamic situations, things start moving and happening, that drops to 20%. All right? If you are running, and that gunman is not at 70 to 80% anyway, more than likely, he's going to have a harder time hitting somebody. That's why you move. That's why you don't stand still. So it's harder to hit a moving target than a stationary one. And distance is your friend. The further away something is, the harder it is to hit. So if you're moving away from the danger, both the moving and the distance are going to help you out tremendously. But what's this look like? Well, exiting a building, also known as running. The closest exit may not be your best option. So, understand what your options are. And you're going to have to assess this fairly quickly. Where's the noise coming from? What direction are people running? What's going on? If all you have is, oh, we're all going to go out this door, but we really need to be going out this door, you need to know that and assess it. Exit as a group unless the situation dictates otherwise, and that's for accountability. If you're in a work area and you all need to bug out, if you can, so we can account for everybody, go out as a group. If that's just not going to happen, then one at a time, whatever it needs to be. And then once you're out of the building, head for a safe place that is a distance away from wherever the danger is. And for here, normally I'd be head for the convent or head for Friends University. Over there, we don't want you hanging out in parking lots, and we don't want you hanging out by trash cans. And the reason is, some people know that's where you're going to go. So they'll plant a bomb in a vehicle, bomb in a trash can. We saw that happen in Atlanta, Georgia, I think, at an abortion clinic. They had a bomb go off at the building. Everybody ran to the parking lot and a secondary one went off. So stay away from those things. Get to a building. So accountability, again, is important for both employees and students. Call 911 once you get to a safe place. Don't assume someone else did it. Don't assume that. And then our new Dean of Students, who was right here, she is actually going to be in charge of where everybody's going to go and how that's going to work on the back end, because I'm taking care of the front end. So we have separate jobs. That is going to be her job to come up with. All right, hiding. The reason we say hide is a shooter cannot shoot what they can't see, unless they get awful lucky. So they also know they have a limited amount of time. So they don't have time, unless it's a domestic situation, they don't have time to run around and play hide and seek with everybody to find one person to get them. They're going where most of the people are. The shooters are hopefully not going to be as familiar with the buildings as you are. If you're in a work area, you should know every nook and cranny. A shooter should not know that. And you need to be prepared for a long wait. So, some more on that. If you're hiding in an office or a room, if you can, close the door, turn off the light. Looks like an empty place. Guy's not going to take time to go in there and do.
Shut the blinds.
Oh, yeah, shut the blinds too if you can, if they have them. Get behind or under something solid. Try to put something solid between you and the danger. It also helps conceal you. Closets are good places if that's an option for you. Some Sacred Heart places have closets. If there are other closets that are available, those are nice. And hiding is a waiting game, so be prepared to wait for a while. And you're not going to want to come out until you hear police. And you'll know it's police because radios are going off, the type of words they use, there'll be a group of them. Announce yourself before you come popping out of your hiding place. All right? These guys are wired, trust me. I've been there, and if you jump out, they're going to react. So tell them, hey, it's just me, I'm coming out, I've been hiding, and life will be good. All right, so why do we teach fight? Well, because resistance is not part of that shooter's script. And I know there should be an apostrophe on the shooters, sorry. But fear and control are part of their script. So if I were, to take my gun out and start shooting, I could make people do, get on the ground and whatever because you're afraid and I can control you through that fear. But if you guys start chucking things at me, that's not part of my game plan. And so what we're trying to do is take them off that script. Fighting doesn't mean we stand toe-to-toe. All right, that's what people assume when we say fight. That's not it. We're talking about throwing things, spraying things, doing anything you can to disrupt this shooter and frustrate them because they've got to get back on that script. That's their fantasy. That's what they're playing out, is that script. So, we just talked about that. First point. Something you have to realize is sometimes it's a self-sacrificial thing that you would be doing by fighting. But you are buying time. And time is a great thing for people trying to run or hide. So understand that. Throw, spray, barricade, just about anything that you want. Whatever you can do is going to be beneficial overall. If you don't do anything, you're going to become a target. So doing one of these three things, run, hide, or fight, whatever your best option is at the time, as opposed to standing still, it will help save lives, and hopefully yours on there. So, what about prevention strategies? And I get asked this, well, what are we going to do to keep this from happening? And I'm going to give you kind of a surprising answer. You are the prevention strategy. Whether you knew it or not, you're the prevention strategy. Get to know your students and your coworkers. All right, don't just say, oh, that's so-and-so and I don't know anything about them. Get to know them. Learn what options are available to you. Debbie Haslam over here is a great resource for your options. Rosemary just sent out an email today about referral policy. That lists some options and how to do that. We do have access to a mental health counselor on this campus, and she comes every Thursday. But she's on call. We can get students or coworkers to them or bring her here to deal with them. So it's not just a once a day or a once a week thing. We have our new Dean of Students. who is a resource for helping people that might be in crisis. We have coaches if they're athletes, student athletes. We have Father Fogg over here who has more than once stepped up to the plate when it's come to that. So we've got a lot of things in place that you can use, learn what they are and how to access them. So pay attention to those behaviors, actions, and words. Tell someone when you notice something wrong and keep telling them until they take some action. So I'm going to pause right here for a minute and I'm going to tell you a story that involves me. And it involves a workplace violence issue when I was on the police department. For about 6 years, I taught the DARE program to 5th graders. And I was in a section of the city building, and across the hallway was the crime prevention unit. It had 3 guys in there. We had 5 people, so there were 8 of us in this section. And one of the guys over in the crime prevention section became a very good friend of mine. He had about a 12-year-old son. I had a 12-year-old son. We would do bicycle clinics in the summertime. He'd bring his son, I'd bring mine. We'd play catch with the baseball. I'd been to his house, he'd been to my house. I mean, just all kinds of things. And one day, this guy shows up to work, and he's got a bandage on his right forearm. And so we asked him, hey, what, you know, we're curious, tell us what happened. He said, oh, an emu kicked me. And well, one of the things he did with another officer was he raised emus, trying to make a little extra money. And all we know about emus, big ugly bird, okay? Yes, that's it. So, okay, that's fine, and life goes on that week. That was on a Monday. On a Sunday, the following Sunday, my friend starts drinking early in the morning. And by mid-afternoon, he's out of beer and wanting more. So he forces his wife into a pickup truck, drives her to a small town in rural Sedgwick County, pulls up to a convenience store. The wife gets out, runs inside the convenience store, and locks herself in the bathroom. My friend gets out, goes in, he's going to buy some beer. The clerk that's on duty sees what's going on, knows something's not right. He calls the local police department. Officer shows up, goes up, starts talking to my friend, and next thing you know, the fight is on. These guys, and my friend, he's only my height, but he's a farm boy. So he'd been throwing bales of hay since he was 2 years old. He's a pretty stocky guy. And they're wrestling around on the floor of this convenience store, and my friend reached over and grabbed the gun out of this police officer's holster, pointed it at his head, and pulled the trigger at the officer's head. Fortunately, the gun did not go off. And the reason the gun didn't go off was it was a 6-shooter. And when you pull the trigger on a 6-shooter, the cylinder will rotate one time to where a bullet is, and the hammer will go back and it goes forward and strikes the bullet. That officer was able to get his hand up there and grab the back of that pistol, so when the hammer went forward to hit the bullet, it caught the webbing between his thumb and his finger. The fight continues for a little bit, and then the cavalry arrived, and my friend was handcuffed, strapped to a gurney, and taken to mandatory psychological lockup for 5 days. Okay? Monday morning came. There are 7 of us sitting in the office, and you could have heard a pin drop. And we're thinking, man, what happened? He's one of us, we're the good guys, we don't do this stuff. What happened? Well, pretty soon somebody said, well, you know, that bandage on his arm, yeah, Emu didn't kick him. He found out his wife was having an affair and he put his fist through a plate glass window. Had marital problems. One guy said, well, yeah, Last week he told me that he had just declared bankruptcy for the second time. Financial problems. My part was, and I left an important part of the story out, but he had family problems. He had beaten his son pretty severely before he went to get more beer. I left that out, I'm sorry. But what it came down to was there were 7 of us in this office, and we all had a piece of this puzzle. And none of us did anything. Sorry. Cam, can I call you back?
Sure can.
All right. So we each knew a piece of this story, but we did nothing with it. So the kicker on that was my friend was fired, charged with 2 felonies, convicted, did a little bit of jail time, not much. Ended up about 3 years later drinking himself to death, which is unfortunate. But as a result of his getting fired, I got to sit at his desk. I moved across the hall to crime prevention. And for 8 years, I sat at his desk. And every time I sat down, I had to wonder, could I have made a difference? I don't know. I don't know. But I'm telling you, if you see something, you keep telling somebody. Tell them and keep telling them until somebody does something. All right. And then don't forget about the BATE team, behavior assessment. Generally with a student who goes into meltdown, you need to give the BATE team a call on that. All right, never meet alone with someone who's potentially violent or angry. We don't know what'll set some people off, but don't do it by themselves. Don't assume you can handle it on your own, because chances are you cannot. Believe what you hear if they start making threats. Don't think, oh, they're just blowing off steam or whatever. No, we need to act on it. And then if you're in doubt about anything, call me. Call me, call me, call me. All right, next, have a plan. All right. Your plan, if you're new or unfamiliar with your building, call me, we'll go snooping. I'll unlock doors, I'll show you places, things, whatever you want, so you get familiar with it. And you're not bothering me, that's part of my job. And then the little motto from when I was in the 313th MI Battalion in the Army is savoir c'est pouvoir, which is knowledge is power. The more you know, the better your plan is, the better you can react if something should happen. In most cases, I can work with Bruce, get you keys that might get you extra options, or codes to doors that might get you extra options for either getting out of the building or hiding. But understand, you may have limits. You may be in a classroom or an area, work area, and there's just one door and that's it. Okay, understand that and form your plan around my options are limited. You can share your plan with classes, co-workers, whatever. Try not to have, if you've got 10 co-workers, don't have 10 plans. Put them together, have one plan. And then be prepared to lead, especially RAs, or especially if you're the head of a department, people will look to you for leadership. If you don't have a plan, you can't lead. So have that plan and then be prepared to lead. And again, if you see, hear, or know something, say something. That's how we prevent this stuff on campus. Other issues. So here's the not active shooter part. Don't leave items in your vehicles, please, 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 please. And this is anything. If it looks like it might be good, it can get taken. And we have people get into vehicles on our campus, on friends' campus, in the daytime, at night, it doesn't matter. Don't leave them anything to see. Lock your vehicles. We have video of guys walking through the parking lots and all they're doing is looking for open doors. That's all they're doing. So lock them. At night, don't walk across campus alone. If you work in a certain area and you had to work late that night and you don't feel comfortable, call security. We'll come walk you to wherever you need to go, and we'll make sure you're safe. Backpacks, purses, computer bags, anything like that, when you're on campus, lock them up or put them where you can watch them. We get students all the time that will set these things down and go off into a classroom and it's out in the hallway. And that's how they get taken. And then call or report suspicious persons or activities. You're not bothering us. And we have an element that walks through our campus on a daily basis. Don't be afraid to call on them. If they make you feel bad, call on them. Treat all fire alarms as if they're real. And I know it's a pain in the butt to get up and walk out from your desk and you got, a deadline to meet and all that. But treat them as if they're real, please. And again, know your exits. Pay attention to weather alerts. We'll try to keep you updated if severe weather is coming. So please pay attention to those. In the event of a tornado warning, go to the closest shelter. But Mo, where do I find where the closest shelters are? Website. If you go to our homepage, hit admissions, visit campus, and go to main campus map, I'll show you what that looks like in a second. But just for general knowledge, the only FEMA-rated shelter we have is Gerber 105. And it's only F3, which is better than nothing. So if in doubt, head to Gerber 105. But if you go to that website, this is what will pull up. And you have the map, and it tells you where everything is on that map. You can print that off, check it out. Daniel just updated that for me a couple of months ago. So that should be up to date. All right, somebody asked about closed circuit TV cameras. We do have cameras on campus. Only occasionally do I actively monitor those. Most of the time I don't. Because I'm walking around or driving a golf cart around and I'm putting eyes on the campus. So with the camera locations, some people are like, well, can I park my car here? Can you see if something were to happen to it, whatever? Yes. And what I will do, what I've done, is I've made copies of where not every camera location. We have some inside the bookstore that are not on here. But exterior cameras and everything that I can monitor is on this list. So as you leave today, you can stop by and pick one of those up and see where those cameras are. Well, guys, if you ever have any questions, any concerns, anything like that, I'm pretty open. Come get with me and we'll do what we can to resolve whatever issue you have or change how we do something. I'm not opposed to change. So whatever makes it work for where we're at right now, that's what I want to do. So give me a call if I can help. That's it. We're done. Woohoo!